How far down? Yeah, I got it. That's where I am. Hey, I'm ready. Nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me. Here, okay. So, Lisa, I think we're putting in
Say hi, but she hasn't got to me.
Stephen, here. Oh.
No.
now she's missing here though because my sister has a bunch of kids. We're working on her second, and she has one kid. And she's like, I wish they were with their cousins. Like, it's nice to have them.
Go to the mic for their speaking. Because I think, but you don't have to. Would you rather sit? I just thought for line of sight it might be better.
They can certainly take it.
Yeah, you can definitely take it out. Yeah.
Last year, who walked?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So I was going to have you start us off.
Yes.
To say welcome to Main Street United Methodist Church. You know, whatever your land acknowledgement, and do the opening prayer, talk a word back and forth, whatever logistics you want to give us. Yeah. And then you can pass it over to me. Does that sound good? My last name? Paul. Palm. Like the palm?
Nice.
All right, everybody. All right.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. I'm Kelly Turney, the pastor here at Main Street United Methodist. Restrooms on this level are right out this door that direction. Emergency exit is right there. So that's your main stuff. Elevators and stairs can both take you down to the street level. And we want to welcome Iris Cara here tonight. She is our Spanish language interpreter. Yay. So we're grateful to host this gathering. Main Street's grateful to host this gathering this year as we join in civil and civic discourse at a fractured time in our country, where reckless rhetoric and demonizing of others is so pervasive. It is really good to come together to model a different way. Amen?
Amen.
Looky there, that worked. It works on Sunday morning, but I had no idea in this interfaith gathering if that was going to work. We remember here that every person is beloved and worthy and in need of safe housing. We recognize that the efforts to mend what is broken is not just the work of the elected officials. We come here as people from a variety of faiths, not wanting to wait on others to mend what is broken. We come dedicated to weave a society strong enough to hold everyone. This is our work together. So I invite you into this moment of centering prayer for this work. Maybe connect with the ground, straighten your spine, lift your crown of your head to the skies if you can. Holy One of justice and compassion, in these turbulent times, give us strength. When fear threatens to paralyze us, remind us that we are not alone. Bless the elected officials who serve, the community who organizes, the feet that march, the voices that speak truth, and the hearts that refuse to be hardened. May we be grateful for this moment, this welcoming town with its history and future that stands in solidarity with immigrants. This place, this Natakina, the land stewarded by the Pennacook and the Wabanaki peoples for generations. This community who seeks to live beyond the binaries of us versus them, saved or damned, patriot or enemy of the state. May we listen beyond what is familiar to those on the margins, on the streets, on the edge, those who live the stressors of the housing crisis. May justice roll down like waters, and may we be swept up in its current, not as bystanders, but as participants in this holy work of healing and hope. Keep us steadfast, keep us tender, and let love be our guide. Amen. I want to turn it over to Allison Palm. She is the pastor, the minister at the Unitarian Church in town, and she's our moderator for the evening. Will you welcome Allison?
Thank you so much, Pastor Kelly, for welcoming us here, and thank you to everyone who is with us tonight. As Pastor Kelly said, I am the minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church here in Nashua. I also serve as president of our Nashua Area Interfaith Council, which is one of the organizations that's helping to sponsor this evening. And I have been a part of the Interfaith Housing Justice Group for 8 years, as long as it's been around, for about 8 years. We are a group of faith leaders from the greater Nashua area who believe that housing is a right. Safe, affordable housing is a right that all people should have, and that belief comes grounded from our faith traditions that tell us that everyone is worthy of a safe place to live. Everyone is worthy of a roof over their heads, and that we should care for our neighbors. 2 years ago, we held a similar forum, and we are grateful to do so again tonight, knowing that housing is a key issue in our community, knowing that we don't have enough housing, and particularly we don't have enough affordable housing. This evening is also co-sponsored by the Granite State Organizing Project's Nashua chapter. The Granite State Organizing Project is New Hampshire's largest faith-based grassroots community organization, and they seek to strengthen communities, empowering them to find their voice and affect change. Housing has also been at the center of the work of the Granite State Organizing Project's Nashua chapter for several years now. And we know that where we are at right now with housing is not sufficient, that we are not able to house everyone who lives in Nashua, and we're certainly not able to house everyone who wants to live in Nashua. And I'm so grateful to Rabbi John Spira-Savet, who's going to give us a little sense before we begin of the landscape of housing.
Thank you. A little sense. I wanted to note before I start that toward the entrance there is a sign-up sheet if you are not already on an email contact list, so that we can, near Reverend Newhall, I guess, is waving back there, so that you can hear about both events like this and opportunities to organize that are specific either to the city of Nashua or your ward if you are a Nashuan. So I just wanted to review a little bit of history and celebrate some things that have happened over the past couple of years and point out some forward directions and charges. As Reverend Palm said, our group has been engaged for more than 6 years, particularly around housing, initially a bit by accident. We started to gather looking at ourselves as clergy people, as justice voices in our community with dissatisfaction to ourselves. And then we looked outward to see where our voice might be helpful upstream of other issues that are in town. And we spent time with members of the City of Nashua staff and people knowledgeable about development, and listened to community members in our congregations and through the Granite State Organizing Project, and here we are. The comprehensive housing study done by the City of Nashua in 2020 determined that about 45% of Nashua renters were overburdened by the cost of housing, spending more than the suggested maximum of 30% of income on housing, and about half of that, more than 50% of their income. And it would take an addition of about 5,000 new units of construction to meet all of our city's needs between 2020 and 2030. In our meetings with developers and city staff, our group set on a goal of 2,000 new units that would be affordable, definitely for people making at most 80% of area median income, but certainly much less than that as well. We have repeated that goal and even asked people running for office, for your offices or for mayor, to pledge toward that goal. The first number was incorporated into the Imagine Nashua master plan. It would appear that when it comes to affordable housing, we are, as a city, about 1/3 of the way toward that decade goal of 2,000 new units, between those that have been completed and projects in the works. Projects such as the upcoming Mohawk Tannery, the Elm Street Middle School redevelopment, another in the works on Temple Street, hopefully, the redevelopment through the Nashua Housing and Redevelopment Authority at Major Drive. The proposals for Elm Street differ substantially in the number and configuration of affordable units. In all of these areas, our groups who have asked you to be here are concerned not just about numbers of any one particular development, but about connections for people who live in these new places and how new development will connect all of us in the city together. Since the last city election, the new housing loan fund that was on the books has really gotten into operation, channeling funds into affordable projects. It was capitalized with $10 million from the American Rescue Plan Act, federal dollars at the time, and it's a revolving loan fund overseen by a terrific committee of citizens and city staff. And the new Recode project about zoning and regulations is another tool in its final stages in the works, which will facilitate affordable housing in various forms, from buildings with tens of units to the addition of units here and there in existing neighborhoods. There's been a lot of community input elicited in imaginative ways by the Community Development Department and its consultants. So we're here to talk about what comes next. We know it takes a combination of financing, policy, commitment, networking, YIMBYism, and a vision of solidarity and equity for our city. We hope our next board, whoever that will be among you, will have the strong commitment to seek all of these and work with each other and the city's dedicated staff and developers familiar to Nashua or not yet familiar, and citizens to make sure that everyone who makes our community flourish can live here sustainably as well.
Thank you for giving us a little bit of the lay of the land. We also wanted to set the stage with a couple of stories from folks in our community. And I have Betsy Hood here from the Southern New Hampshire Hospital. Would you come up and share your story?
Hi, good evening, thank you. My name's Betsy Hood, and I am the Executive Director of Community Partnerships for Southern New Hampshire Health. And I checked in with our new Chief People Officer, Shannon Levesque, and also our Director of Workforce Strategy, Scott Santoro, to really get a sense of how the housing shortage is impacting our employees. Because we are one of the largest employers in the community, and you know we are right down the street as the medical center. So the housing issue does impact our ability to find and employ candidates with specific clinical backgrounds, as well as candidates that are seeking entry-level non-clinical positions. From a rental and home ownership standpoint, it's really limiting. There's not enough rental options that are close to the medical center that are affordable. We're a 24/7 operation, so that makes it even more complicated. And roles such as housekeepers, cooks, transport, and clinical support like medical assistants, LNAs and such, and other of those lower paying positions have a really difficult time finding housing close to the facilities that are available, affordable, and safe. From the physician perspective, many doctors are moving to New Hampshire from out of state and really having difficulty finding housing that they can afford within a reasonable commuting distance to Nashua. Many of those are on call and need to be fairly nearby if they're getting called in for emergencies. Travelers, you've all heard sort of during COVID, really needed to bring in nurses and other specialty from out of the region. And that's been really difficult for them to find reasonable housing within commuting distance, which has really limited the number of folks we're able to bring in. Those are diagnostic imaging professionals and others who would be interested in coming to Nashua. So other limiting factors that we've run into are the current interest rates for home loans and skyrocketing inflation. That's all created additional barriers and the overall cost of living. And folks that are considering relocating to the greater Nashua area, when they start searching on the internet about the cost of living in our city, often see that the average cost of living in Nashua is $2,621, which is in the top 7% of the most expensive cities in the world. So whether that data is true and based on facts, it's what people are seeing who are contemplating coming to move here. We do everything we can on an annual basis to try to keep our employees and help them have a decent way of life through yearly compensation increases, off-cycle increases for key roles, signing on bonuses, employee referral bonuses, tuition reimbursement, student loan forgiveness, all to try to keep employees in the region. But they're very costly and they do put a strain on our health system. And we're in competition with every other health system right across the border in Massachusetts, which often pays much higher. But no matter what, our hourly workforce really continues to struggle to make ends meet. Many don't have the luxury of time to pursue additional certifications or enroll in college programming to try to get to higher level positions. Many are balancing more than one job to meet their financial commitments. So that really does become a barrier to other opportunities they might pursue. So anything that you can do going forward to really help with housing would be incredibly helpful to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have our second story tonight is going to be read by Tonya Nisley.
Hi, how are you? My name is Tonya Nisley. I'm just an active member in the city. This story was from a friend of mine, Stephanie Walker. Her and her husband have both, well, her husband is still an employee at the Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter, and she was there for a long time, but this is her story. She wants to apologize that she could not be here to share this story in person, as the rise in landlords being taking advantage of tenants, particularly those in low-income areas, has not gotten better since my experience with Gauthier Realty. In 2017, my boyfriend Rich and I began to rent from Gauthier Realty. We signed a lease for a one-bedroom on East Hall Street for $850 a month with no utilities. The apartment since then has gone up in rent to $1,100. On September 8th, I married Rich, and we went off to our honeymoon upon returning as two employees of the Soup Kitchen and Shelter. We were moving into the full swing of Thanksgiving in our Thanksgiving food boxes. Married life was great until November 27th, 2019. We had finished our last day of Thanksgiving food boxes, feeding over 1,000 families. We were feeling proud, grateful, and excited to spend a good Thanksgiving meal the next day with my parents and brother. I walked into the bathroom, and our bathtub and toilet were full to the brim with dirty green water. Thinking it was clogged, I tried to use the plunger. I managed to get the water level down enough that I thought it was safe to flush. Word of advice, don't ever think it's safe. The water from the bathtub and the toilet started rushing out the sides and all over the bathroom floor. My husband and I tried to clean it up with towels. On top of that, the water had gone down and was now back to the brim again. We called our emergency line that Gauthier had given us. An hour later, someone came out. He tried Drano, plunging it, and numerous other things until he finally gave up at 12:30 in the morning. He said he would send Roto-Rooter out tomorrow. There was no guarantee on when they would show up either, so we had to cancel our dinner plans with my parents. I wish I would have fought for a hotel room, as we had no bathroom we could use and no option was given to us. Dun, 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 sorry. The only saving grace we had was that Dunkin' Donuts across the street opened at 4 a.m. Luckily, we bought a lot of coffee there, and they let us use the bathroom until ours got figured out. Roto-Rooter came out just in time to fix our toilet, and we didn't get to miss our dinner plans, thankfully. We thought we were in the clear. My mother let us borrow a dehumidifier and told us to run it overnight to avoid getting any mold. Had I known what mold smelled like, I probably would have called Gauthier sooner, though I imagine it wouldn't have made much difference. I ran the dehumidifier for a couple of days, and the smell just kept getting worse. We tried closing the bathroom door as well as shoving the bottom door filled with towels to stop the smell from coming out into the rest of the apartment. She had asked me to come over to my house, to come over and ask to smell it and see if I could smell the mold or not. Also, she didn't mention this, but when she would go in there, after she started smelling it for a little while, she would start to feel like dizzy and nauseous. I'm just going. I don't know how they couldn't smell it. Oh, sorry, I missed a spot. Okay. It was most likely in the walls from the water seeping down, and I needed to tell my landlord. We made the landlord aware, but nothing was done. We were told that they had sent over maintenance, but they couldn't see the mold, and I personally, she said, I don't know how they couldn't smell it. On December 6th, my cat Izzy and I moved into Tanya's house. My husband stayed behind because, to his defense, we were paying $850 a month for an apartment we couldn't afford, but should have been able to live in. I, however, have epilepsy, and the mold was starting to affect my seizures. On December 15th, Tanya and I went to City Hall to speak with the building inspectors in hopes that we can come get some movement in fixing the mold there. We were told to check back in 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, we were told that the building inspector went over and didn't see any mold or smell anything. I asked Gauthier, which, if they could smell it, which they couldn't. Though I can't prove it, I am thoroughly convinced that Gauthier has something with the current building inspector. Why would a building inspector, whose job it is to make sure buildings are up to code, say there is no mold? It seems there may be a deal of some sort. And then she was, on Christmas Eve, Rich and her moved into my house as he had given up trying to fight with Gauthier himself and being away from his wife. We tried until March to get Gauthier to do something about the mold, but nothing. In March 2020, COVID hit, and being essential workers, this took over everything else in our lives. We had gone from having volunteers every single day to being a staff of 4 and 3 volunteers. With the demand that was being asked of us during this time, Rich and I agreed we would start looking for a new apartment. On May 31st, in the height of the pandemic, they moved into the Canterbury Apartments in Nashua, which they still reside in. They have continued to stay with them and sign their lease because of the urgency of them fixing things in a timely manner. When their AC broke, they came right away and said that they would fix it. When her tub was leaking, they literally came in the day after, fixed it, done. What happens to the families that can only afford the apartments in the tree streets? Do they not deserve the same care that I get because they pay less? In the lease, it says you will fix it, and then you need to fix it. There should be more accountability on the landlord than there is. Seems like it's always the tenant's fault or responsibility. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tonya. With this background of where housing is right now in our city, let's meet our candidates and hear from them about where they imagine taking Nashua in terms of housing in the next few years. So I'm going to begin on this end. We have 3 candidates for Alderman at Large: Shoshana Kelly, Amber Morgan, and Alicia Gregg. We have 2 candidates for Ward 1, Stephen Chess and Haley Gallagher. We have 1 candidate for Ward 2, Matthew Guthrow. 1 candidate for Ward 4, Tom Lopez. We have 3 candidates here for Ward 5, Janice Chulin, Brenda Garneau, and Paula Johnson. We have 1 candidate for Ward 6, Vendra Filata Smith. We have 1 candidate for Ward 7, Tim Sennett. 1 candidate for Ward 8, Derek Tebow. And 1 candidate for Ward 9, John Sullivan. So thank you so much to all of our candidates who were able to make it out tonight. We have 1 question that we'll be offering to all of our candidates and they'll be answering it. They'll each get 2.5 minutes to share their answers. We do have a timekeeper right here, so watch. The yellow means you're almost up, the red means you're up. And our question for you is, given all that you've heard tonight, given all that hopefully you have heard in your conversations during your time of considering becoming a candidate for the Board of Aldermen, what do you see as the most pressing issue for housing in Nashua right now? What do you see as the most pressing issue, and how do you plan to address it on the Board of Aldermen? We'll begin with Shoshana.
I might take this off.
Yeah.
I'm more of a walker. Rabbi actually covered a lot of the background that I was going to give, so that gives me some time to talk a little bit more in the weeds. Can everybody hear me? So I'm an alderwoman at large. I've been in office for 8 years, and housing policy is something that I'm a bit geeky about. I've really been, fortunate to see what's happening in our city and been able to work collaboratively with a lot of people in this room on housing. So you mentioned the Housing Trust Fund. It was originally the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That was legislation I brought forward as the main sponsor. So I'll talk a little bit about that as one of the solutions and one of the things. But as we've been building that community and looking at a rubric on how we can put out that money, we really dug deep in terms of community values and what do we want and what do we want to see. So the money that has gone out from that trust fund, I think, is a prime example of ways that we can help. But the main thing that we said our goal was from the beginning was units, units, units. And we're constantly looking at that. So you mentioned that the housing study said we need 4,769 units. To date, we have approved 2,700 of those, and about 1,500 have come online. Now the need is still there. It's still there. One of the things that the committee is doing is being very creative in how we put that money out, and I think that's what we need in terms of continuing to work on this issue. We need collaboration, tenacity, and working together to get to the heart of this. So we've put money into a landlord incentive program that's run by the Front Door Agency, which is looking at how can we bring on existing housing and open that up to a set of people who have vouchers or just need a step up. So that's been one of them. And I think that as we continue to look at the units as the main issue, it really is. We just need to continue to build more. And it's not just Nashua. The whole country is staring this down. So how do we continue to bring on units so that everybody who wants to live and thrive here can? I saw my red.
Thank you all so much for being here and for hosting us. It's an honor to sit with each and every one of you, and most of you have already been working on this issue for quite a long time, so thank you for the progress you've already made. And something that I wanted to talk about is, and this may sound familiar to you, Rabbi, is to save one life is to save the world. Or when you light one candle, you can light another. So we need to approach this problem not in just a big sense and say we need 5,000 units, because to some people that may sound too much, too hard. How do we start today, right now? How do we help the person right in front of us? And so something that Shoshana had said was through the partnership with the Front Door Agency, which is $350,000 in voucher program. That, if you don't know what that language means, it means nothing. But what it's going to do is they're going to work with specific landlords to help them mitigate any extra expense that they may have. Maybe there's extra wear and tear that they weren't expecting, or also to help people with their down payments, because sometimes maybe you have the voucher, maybe you have the place, but you don't have the down payment. So we're looking at how we can remove that red tape. So that's one piece. The other thing that is going to, hopefully through the Recode, I was the chair of Imagine Nashua and got to work with you on what that looks like, and the Recode is the result of that. And one thing that you're going to be seeing come from our work is lowering the threshold to be able to add an accessory dwelling unit. So what that may mean, I'll share my personal story. Unfortunately, I've been homeless twice in my own life, so this is something that is near and dear to me. I was lucky enough that I didn't have to sleep in a tent or a sleeping bag, but on a friend's couch or a family's couch. that's still considered homeless, and I hope that none of you ever have to go through that. So I own a home just down the road. We have an in-law apartment. When it was sold to me, it was sold as is that 30 seconds? In-law apartment, but it didn't meet the standards from the city to be able to have somebody to move in. They're raising it from 500 square feet to 900 square feet, hopefully to 1,200, which means that I could now turn that into an apartment to help that one person, to save that one life, that one person right in front of you. That's what I'm gonna do, is focus on each and every person.
Thank you, Amber and Shoshana. My name is Alicia Gregg. I am also running for Alderman at Large. I also serve Ward 7 as a state representative. So I can tell you that from the state level, Governor Ayotte has signed in a couple of bills that will help part of it. One is to streamline to be able to have commercial, what was zoned formerly commercial, to make that more residential. When we look at housing, though, and we look at the need of so many more houses or so many more units, it's not just about the number of units. We have to look at the full picture. We have to look at affordability. We have to look at the maintenance of what we do have. You know, we have places where people can live, but then they have to move out because of disrepair or whatever. It's looking at our infrastructure. So this is one big picture, and I think the more we start to focus on just one thing, let's build something here, the more we lose out, because we have to have infrastructure, we have to have businesses that come in, we have to streamline the redevelopment of houses that are vacant. Right now, I believe we sit on the better part of 200 vacant homes in this city. And why? I'm not sure. I couldn't get answers. So we have to look at things like that. What is happening in this city where we do have vacant properties? We have underused properties. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. But I just want to say that this is bigger than just building those units. We have to really be responsible fiscally with what we're doing. We also, at the state level, have legislation that came in that does make it more, the ability to have these ADUs, which is going to be part of it. But when we look at that, we also have to keep in mind our infrastructure. We have a great, amazing thing where we've been developed longer than a lot of cities in this country, but that comes at a price. We have an infrastructure that is failing. Another thing that we have, and when we look at landlords and whether or not they can make it more affordable, we have to start talking about our taxes. Our taxes are too high. We need the state to start taking some of this burden and not putting it on the municipalities. That's a huge part of affordability. So part of this housing is more units, but it's the entire picture of what we can do to make that work. Thank you.
I'll go back over here. I'm Stephen, Chess for Ward 1. So one of the things that I think actionably that needs to be taken on first is the fact that we have such a homeless population that doesn't have access to a roof at all. And one of the ways to be able to address that, obviously, is through the additional affordable housing. And some of the various tactics that we can use for doing that, which Amber already mentioned, are additional ADUs for properties that already have people living in them, but have the potential for having additional families either living either in a basement dwelling or potentially being able to do renovations to be able to modify houses to be able to have more families per lot. And one of the ways that we can help incentivize that, on top of the people who already want to do that and have, in some cases, been voted against, some neighborhoods can vote against their neighbors being able to do that, be able to incentivize people to do that with tax incentives, so that way they actually have reasons to do it other than just for helping the community, which is good enough in itself. And something that we need to be very careful about when we're considering all of this is that all of the stuff we're doing is very cost neutral when possible, like you were saying, because we have to really consider the fact that a lot of people, as you were mentioning, are house poor when they have a lot of their budget going to their housing, then a little bit of an increase in the tax rate for them could be the difference of them being able to stay in their home and them not being able to stay in their home. So we have to be very cognizant that we're effective with those resources that we're deploying. Additionally, it's important that we understand that none of us are likely the experts in any of this, so it's important to keep talking to the community and understanding new perspectives. One of the perspectives I wasn't thinking about before I was talking today was about the fact that there really isn't as good of accountability for landlords when tenants aren't getting what they need. So it's really important for us to continue to listen to both residents. It's important for us to talk to those who are, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Haley Gallagher. I am running for Ward 1, and I can only speak on behalf of the residents that I've spoke to thus far in Ward 1 in terms of answering this housing question. I'm not entirely familiar with everything that I've learned so much today in terms of what's happening in some of the other wards in downtown, but I will tell you that in Ward 1 specifically, the biggest concern that I've heard are the property taxes. So I think that that is going to be the #1 concern that I'm interested in looking into. And the main question that I've gotten is why? Why are my property taxes so high? And I think it's really important that the residents know where their tax dollars are going and can answer that question. Additionally, I think that the communication is huge. So in terms of so that assistance, those programs for home buyers, whether it be new home buyers or seniors, I think it's really important that we spread the word and that everyone is aware of those. And then lastly, I just want to say that it is important to fight for all the vulnerable individuals in Nashua that the housing crisis is affecting. And along those lines, I think it's important that we have more of a conversation around the definition of affordable housing and what that really means, because affordable to one person may not be affordable to another. And a lot of the affordable housing, quote unquote, that has gone up in Nashua, I certainly wouldn't consider affordable, and I know that a lot of other people wouldn't either. So I think that's an important topic, and like I said, I'm excited to learn more and hear from everyone else and all the other residents. And thank you for your time.
Good evening. I first want to thank the Greater Nashua Interfaith Housing Justice Group for hosting this event tonight. And thank you for those Ward 2 residents and all Nashua community members for attending. My name is Matthew Guthrow, and I'm a candidate for Alderman representing Ward 2. And while I do not come from a political background, I'm an engaged member of the community who shares your concerns regarding high housing costs, limited supply, and uncertainty about government response to these challenges. Now, I participated in the city's recoding efforts to identify areas of additional housing prospects, and I share your concerns as well. And housing doesn't mean, we're gonna build a bunch of apartments. I think that we need to put people in permanent housing as well. The American dream is to people to own their own home. And I think the state of Nashua has great opportunities for first-time home buyers. And so I think we need to spread the word that the state of Nashua, the state of New Hampshire has a great program for low to moderate income new home buyers in the state. And so I think we need to do that because we have some great programs there. In terms of the city of Nashua, our property tax rate is 15.90 per thousand assessed value. It's pretty high. Our median household income is $94,787. And we're probably one of the highest property tax burdens in the state of New Hampshire in the United States. But in terms of housing, hope is on the horizon because the US Fed just cut interest rates today by 0.25%. That's the first time in 9 months. And with plans for further cuts before the end of the year. Now, By tapping in to federal grants such as CBDG or HOME, we have great opportunities for these purposes. And by partnering with nonprofits that are already doing this work, we can also allocate with our budgeting dollars, by cutting programs that are redundant and underperforming to start lowering our tax rate. Cutting these programs will also make a big impact. We can also do some prevention by seeing how we're spending our tax dollars. So, at the end of the day, any project that we're working on, okay. So, thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Lopez, Ward 4 Alderman currently, but I'm running for re-election. So first, when I was 16, I worked at Burger King, and at the time the tagline was made with 100% real beef. And one day I looked at the little patty, the boxes the patties came in, and it said 100% real beef with a little trademark next to it. And I was like, what is that? And it turns out 100% pure beef was a brand. I think we risk that here in the housing conversation. When we talk about affordable housing, that's very similar to a brand where we're talking about a HUD definition of affordable. And we touched on it earlier that affordable for most people is 30% of their median income. But when you put people with high median incomes versus fixed median incomes, you're not putting them on the same platform. So as aldermen and as a legislator, I think it's important for us to advocate for that and to point out that some people have less to work with and more need. They might need a first floor apartment, or they might need handicap accessibility. We have a large elderly population here in Nashua, and we have a large fixed income population. Just because both of those populations have specific needs doesn't mean they don't bring value to Nashua. I think that's what we need to do to pursue housing justice, is we need to keep focused on the different needs in Nashua and advocate for the different housing needs, not necessarily putting people who are on a fixed income in the same competition scale as a doctor. I think we need to focus on where the need is first, and we do need to stimulate economic development, but I think there's plenty of opportunities for that, and they have more resources. And when we earlier kind of were proud of ourselves, I guess, for the Housing Loan Fund, I would remind everybody that that was originally called the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And they dropped affordable before we even created the fund because it wasn't accurate to what it was trying to do. And they changed it from being a trust fund where you are providing extra money so that somebody can create low income, fixed income, or other housing needs, and you're creating a loan instead, which that mandates that those programs that are creating that housing can pay it back. So you created that disparity from the get-go. Those are the kind of things I think we need to look at as legislators and leaders in the community. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting us here tonight. My name is Paula Johnson. I'm a former member of the Board of Education, former state rep, and former alderman at large. Back in 2005, we talked about this when I was on the Board of Aldermen. We talked about what's affordable housing, and we saw some of the new affordable housing that was being built. And I said, what's the difference between that and market rate? And they said $200 to $300, and I almost fell over. You know, there is a difference. And I did some research today. Well, I did a couple of days ago. Do you know that the average salary here, okay, let me start again. Because the average rent in Nashua is about $1,959, you'll need to make about $6,500 a month. And that equates to $78,000 a year. And when you're going to rent an apartment, they want to make sure that you have at least 3 months' rent in that checking account. And that makes it very hard for people. I mean, the average person. We're talking about what's affordable. What is affordable out there? I mean, we see all these new apartments that are being built, and 80% of them is market rate, and 20% is affordable. But also, when you're talking about affordable housing, you have to talk about why aren't we bringing jobs in here? Good paying, high quality jobs into the city of Nashua. They're tearing down NIMCO, and that was supposed to be, Technology Way was supposed to be bringing in industry, to bring in jobs. So if we want to talk about affordable housing, we have to talk about bringing jobs into the city and not sending them out of the city. The other issue is, what about affordable housing for seniors? I sat down with some of the aldermen and I helped them pass tax income exempt for married. They gave it up to $67,000 and they upped the single income exempt to $57,000 because seniors are struggling too because they live on a fixed income. So when we equate all this, we have to take a look at the property taxes in the city, which gets passed to the renters, which adds into their rent, and when the taxes go up in the city, the rents go up. So these are all the factors, and everybody who knows what to do, we all have to sit down, roll up our sleeves, and figure out what are we going to do in Nashua, because it's the southern part of New Hampshire, and it's one of the places that everybody wants to live. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brenda Garno. I'm running for Ward 5 Alderman. I'm not a politician. I am totally new at this. Housing is one of our biggest challenges in the city. The 2020 study shows that we're going to need nearly 48 new housing units by 2030. The housing prices have continued to rise. Many working families are being pushed out. Rents have skyrocketed, leaving the same working families with little to no money to save to purchase their homes. According to Zillow, the median price is $500,000 with more, $500,000 or more with a very short listing time. Demand is high, which drives the costs up even more. As I look around, you see the new developments going up, and the houses are all priced beyond the reach of families making less than $75,000 a year. The cost of land, building material, infrastructure, permitting drives up the cost for everything. We need programs that will involve creative financing, interest rates tied to income, innovative down payment options, federal grants, state grants. They need to be developed in collaboration with the developers and other lending institutions. And they should not place more burden on the taxpayers. I will continue to follow the Nashua Recode and study that and follow it closely so I can make more informed decisions and vote responsibly should I become elected. If we do nothing, the prices will keep going up and people will be forced out. If we act, we can keep Nashua a place where our kids can afford to stay, where businesses can hire the workers they need, and where every resident will have a fair shot at decent housing. I'm ready to get to work. With your support, we can build a stronger Nashua. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Janice Chulin, and I'm running for Ward 5, Alderman. Hola, buenas noches. Me llamo Janice Chulin y estoy corriendo para concejal en el Distrito 5 de Nashua. Housing in Nashua is one of the most pressing challenges we face. Right now, our rental vacancy rate is just at 0.3%, far below the healthy 5% that allows families and individuals real choice and stability. That shortage is pushing costs up and straining families at almost every income level. The city has already made strides with partners like NeighborWorks, and I'm very proud about the progress that they have made. And yet, to move forward, we need to both increase supply and make sure that the supply is equitable. That means expanding the inclusionary zoning so developers are encouraged and incentivized to build mixed income housing options. We should be offering smart tax incentives to make affordable units a more appealing and sustainable choice for developers. It also means strengthening partnerships, bringing nonprofits, housing agencies, banks, employers, state reps, all to the stables. Because stable housing is connected to economic opportunity, family stability, health, and safety. Housing can oftentimes be seen as an issue in a vacuum within itself, but it affects almost every component in society. Housing equity is a big undertaking, but I believe progress is possible if we stay strengths-based and collaborative. By investing in mixed income options, supporting accessory dwelling units, and deepening partnerships, Nashua can move toward a future where every family has a safe, affordable place to call home. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm a little tall. So a lot has been said. It's all good. I'm the educator here. I don't know what these guys are going to say because we all did our research, and for the most part, definitely above the C average over here. So great job, guys. One of the things I want to say is that we know that the housing it's complex. There is no way I'm going to be able to stand here and tell you, oh, here's what we can do. Well, I could, but yeah, that's not right. That's not what's going to happen. The reality of it is that it's going to take a collaborative effort on the part of all the leadership, not just within our state, but especially within our city. And there are all the things that we want to have happen, people are starting to do. But what concerns me is we've got to make sure we're starting to plan for our future. Because whatever you're building today, tomorrow, it's going to be already full, and we're still going to have the same issue. So we're going to have to start thinking more long-term. We also need to think about the fact that, look around this room, it's a diverse community, mixed community, intergenerational. Some people want an apartment, some people want to buy a condo, some people want to get a house. In Hillsborough County, right here for us right now, if you want to buy a house, you're going to need $500,000. $530,000 is the average cost of a new home in Nashua. $530,000. Nationwide, there's an increase in the cost of housing at about 3.3% to buy a home. For us, it's 3.9. Way to go, Nashua! That's not what we want to be known for. We want to be known for a place that's creating opportunities for everyone. Everyone should have a great home, a good place to live. And the only way they're going to be able to do that really is working together. It's going to take some financing. A lot of times I will say, don't throw money at a problem. But as a person who has done fundraising, who believes in getting some grants, we got to bring our tax dollars back. For those of us who think we don't pay taxes, look at what you pay for registration fees. They just call it something different. We're paying people. We need to get the money that we are paying to the federal government, get our taxes back, and put them to good use. And that means we got to make better decisions. We need to re-examine the opportunities that are out there in the form of grants. I can give you a grant or a loan. I know you want the grant. Ward 6, vote for me. I'm for grants.
Two and a half minutes? Oh, good. Chris Thibodeau, current Ward 6 Alderman. What am I going to do to fix housing? I have no idea. That's the truth. It's a big problem, and it goes way beyond the city of Nashua to repair it, to fix it. And that's the truth. I can give you all kinds of other song and dance, but that's really the truth. I don't have a plan to fix the housing issue. But all I know is I can do what I can. I don't know what that is yet. It's not a very creative answer, but it's the only one I have. Thank you very much.
I'm nervous, so I'm just going to take this thing in pace. I'm Tim Sennett. I'm the current Ward 7 Alderman. I'm pursuing a second term. We were all up here 2 years ago, right around the same time. And I think I said something akin to the fact that we're not going to find the answer with a 2.5-minute speech, and we're not going to solve it all in a 2-year term. Not to be the bearer of bad news, but we're all here again 2 years later, so I hate to say I told you so. That being said, work is happening. And we just have to be creative and welcome it. This is as much of a political issue as it is a civic issue, as it is a community issue. And we can't solve it if the community's not invested. Earlier in my term, I co-sponsored legislation that's going to pave the way for the development of the rebuild at Maynard Homes. It wasn't a popular choice for me to make because there's neighbors around there that don't want to see that built up. But the fact is, we need the units, and the number of units over there, as much as that community enjoys them, and that's a great, strong community over there, the number's just not sustainable anymore. And it's an unfortunate truth. And it speaks to the fact that as we do develop, we have to do it with dignity. We need to make sure that when these people's lives are interrupted and they're moved from the homes that they've known for some of them decades, that it's done with decency and that they're given a path back when that redevelopment is finished. We also need to make sure that we're not segregating between the haves and the have-nots. We're going to have important decisions to make when it comes to the Elm Street property coming up. And for my money, I want to see a plan that has the quote-unquote haves and have-nots living side by side, the way they do at Maynard Homes. I don't want those who have less over here while everybody else lives over here. That doesn't work. That doesn't speak to community. And we need to get creative. We need to get creative, and sometimes that takes pushing and it takes change. It takes legislative amendments from the top. But if we are willing to change, we can see developments like what you see in Austin, Texas. Austin is 10 times bigger than the city of Nashua. But down there, private nonprofits have raised to the tune of $18 million to develop tiny home communities, which one of my constituents pointed out to me and introduced to me. And it's based on a community-first basis, which is a spin-off of the Housing First, which many of us believe is the solution to get people out of the elements, off the street, and into homes, where a community is built upon itself, people can find jobs and live to an affordable tune. Thank you so much.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I want to first thank everybody for coming out tonight, this evening, and to the Interfaith and all the groups that have sponsored this tonight. Couple quick things. The tax rate, 15.9. If you look back 30 years, that's actually pretty good. It's not too high. That's not the reason why we don't have affordable housing. The word affordable, stupid word, generic word. It's not, affordable means everything, it means different things to everyone, right? We're talking about bringing in lower income housing so people can afford it that need it. I said this 4 years ago when I first came onto the board. One of the first things that I was able to sign up on was the inclusionary zoning. It didn't go farther enough at the time, but it was a start of something, and we put a lot of things in motion since then. 2 years ago when we spoke at the UU Church, I said I wanted affordable housing or low income housing everywhere in the city, not just downtown. We need to spread it out. We're starting to. I just sponsored a bill that the mayor's trying to get the state to buy Daniel Webster College so we can put stuff over there. That would help. That's a huge, huge space that is wasted. It's just sitting there. The other thing that's important is the recode. I am the only one here, I think, that's on the Planning and Development Committee working on the recode. We just had a meeting last night. We want bigger densities in places that make sense, right? Our code right now is too strict for affordable housing, and that's the problem. We have to go in, we have to change the code. I want to take away parking limitations. We have to incentivize, we have to go closer or further with the inclusionary zoning. The recode will help us get there. That's the start. Plus all the buildings and all the things we talked about, NIMCO property, all the things Rabbi John went over in the beginning of all the properties, Maynard Homes, probably Veggie Village is next after that, right? We got to build up, okay? And so, I spoke fast, so I didn't even make my time, but thank you, and again, thank you for coming out tonight.
Hi, John Sullivan, running for Ward 9 Alderman. I'm the current Ward 9 Alderman, running again, and I have to go last, so that means that I have to repeat everything that was already said by all these fine people. But I think a few things that stuck with me. Everybody deserves a great place to live. That stuck with me. And I think what's important as current aldermen or candidates for aldermen, you have to continue to do this, to show up, to listen, don't talk all the time, listen, ask questions, and find out. Because sometimes when we leave here and we go in the chamber, you forget about that stuff. It's nights like this that we have to remember what we're voting on and what we're voting for. So as was already mentioned, things are going on in the city. We have very capable professionals in our planning department right now that are really, really putting through a great recode effort. And when I say recode, I mean they're basically hitting the Control-Alt-Delete button on our zoning map. And it's gonna open up a lot of space in this city for residential housing. Now, Ward 9 we run the gambit. So we have, you mentioned Canterbury Apartments. I looked on Zillow last night, and Canterbury Apartments has one of the most affordable rental rates in the city. And apparently they run a good business over there, so I'm happy to hear that. But on the other end, to contrast that, there was a house that sold on New Searles Road for over $700,000. These aren't mansions. These are modest middle-class homes selling for $700,000. That makes my eyeballs fall out when I see that. And then on the other side, also on New Searles Road, we have a vacant house that was burned out. Unfortunate story. But it's been sitting there for years. We've tried to put that on, to auction that off to get it turned over so somebody can live there. Boy, we just keep hitting stone walls. So things are happening in the city. I appreciate you coming out tonight. I love the stories. I want to keep listening. I want to keep hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of our candidates. Can we give them just one more round of applause? Thank you to our candidates, to the community members who shared their stories tonight, to the folks here at Main Street Methodist who hosted us this evening, and of course to all of you who showed up tonight, I assume because you care about the future of our community, and that matters. There are many ways to build the kind of community that we want to live in. And we are all a part of that work. So whether you're running for office or organizing in your community or just showing up here to learn, you are a part of building the kind of Nashua that we want to live in. If you're interested in housing in particular and want to hear about future events that are hosted by our Interfaith Housing Justice Group, we have sign-up sheets for our mailing list in the back that I believe Sally can point out for you. Thank you all again for your time tonight and your commitment to our city. Do you have one more thing you want to say?
One more announcement.
Yeah.
This is going to be played, everything was recorded tonight, and you'll be able to find it on Facebook if you look for Main Street United Methodist Church.
Wonderful.
For their page, and you can look at this again or get your friends to see it. Something.
Yeah, so we invite you to share that so that others can hear what was shared tonight. And may we all together build a city that embodies an ethic of love and care for our neighbors. And don't forget, of course, to vote on November 4th. Thank you so much.
job.